Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to cover with you guys again how to bench press to build a bigger chest. And this can still carry over to powerlifting because there are some very high level bench champions who actually bench press in a manner very similar to this. It's just that they're not the norm, but interestingly enough, go watch the way someone like Julius Maddox benches, and it's actually pretty close to this. To what I'm saying in this video. So just understand that even though this is not considered to be the best way to power lift, this is really bodybuilder benching in a lot of ways. It will build a big chest, and it can still work if your chest is big enough and you just get strong enough. It can still work even for powerlifting. All right, so the thing to think about here, and again, keep in mind I am a powerlifter, not a bodybuilder. All right, when we're looking to bench for our chest, all these guys out there who say, well, the bench doesn't build my chest. It's like, well, you just don't know how to bench. Bench the way I just benched there. And notice my flat and my incline are the same basic technique here. Bench like that either way, and you'll build a big chest. Okay, I'm sorry, it's just basic biomechanics. You can't get around that. So what I would say to people who are not able to build their chest benching, you're not doing it correctly. All right, the things to keep in mind. Number one, keep the arch modest. Keep the arch modest. You want to keep the range of motion relatively long. And it's particularly important to get that range of motion at the bottom, that lengthened position. All right, so that's pretty high on the list. All right, number two, your grip width needs to be set in a way that your elbows get as low as possible. Okay, because again, what are we trying to do? We need to put the pecs into a lengthened position. If we use too close of a grip or too wide of a grip, what happens? We take the bottom out of the movement. We take the lengthened position out of the bottom. Okay? Also for people who don't touch their chest, I mean, it's very obvious why you don't have pecs. All right? For the people who don't bother to touch their chest at all, and then they're using the bench press and they wonder why their chest doesn't grow well, because you've taken out the position that puts the most possible growth on the pecs, the bottom. You can't do that silly nonsense and expect to get great results, okay, unless you're just really genetically gifted in the chest. So, touching the chest is important. Using a grip width that allows you to get the most stretch on your chest, which usually is going to happen. If you notice on most of these, my forearms, they're not splayed in or out a whole lot at the bottom. So when we're at the bottom, the forearms are 90 degrees. They're at 90 degrees from the floor, right? That again will give you the most lengthened position possible on your pecs. All right, is everyone with me so far? All right, you guys getting the idea? Notice all these things that I've said, they're all about putting the pecs into a stretch in the bottom. Because the more we can stretch our pectorals, the more potential we have for hypertrophy. Okay? We know that lengthened positions are responsible for the majority of the growth that we get. They're actually more important, based upon all the data we have, is more important than the contracted position if you got to pick. So by doing stuff this way, we emphasize this more and more and more. Okay, if you really wanted to emphasize the contracted position on a bench, then you could probably use a close grip. Close grip bench will do that effectively. But that's not always what we're trying to do. We're trying to get into that stretch position. All right, so we've covered a lot of that. Obviously, wrist stacking is important for a lot of the same reasons. It keeps the shoulders healthy, everything else. Wrist stacking, meaning notice the bar is stacked over my wrist bone, which is directly above the elbows, right? Straight line through there. We're not wasting energy. All right, another key point, pausing. Notice I pause on the chest on all of this stuff, both the flat and the incline. Why? Well, besides the fact that it's required for powerlifting, this comes up a lot. I bring this up and I tell guys, try pausing more on your bench in that stretch position, and they're always like, well, what if I don't compete in powerlifting? What if I just want to get strong and have a big chest? Well, first of all, you're going to have to practice pausing if you want anyone to count your benches legit. I see a guy bounce 500 pounds off his chest. I don't go, oh, that guy could bench 500 pounds. I won't accept it, and I don't think anyone should either. Because he probably can't actually bench 500 pounds. And I'm not saying it's not impressive, but it's not comparable to someone who can actually bench 500. You're just not in their tier if you're bouncing it off your chest. Doesn't mean you're not strong. Doesn't mean I can bounce 500 off my chest. But no one has to accept it. No one's going to accept it. So if you're like, you want to be strong, well, then get strong. But that aside, what about the big? All right, those pauses in the lengthened position, we're getting a small amount of isometrics there that are going to be helpful from the lengthened position. But what's the other thing? There's no way to bounce it off your chest. So what does that mean? That means that the pectorals are having to do the majority of the work from the lengthened position, the position where the chest has the most possible mechanical tension placed upon it. All right, mechanical tension, enormous factor in muscle growth. By pausing, you're removing any ability to cheat at the point of greatest mechanical tension. You're ensuring that the chest is being forced to take the brunt of the load. So when you touch and go, that little bit of bounce gets you out of there, right? You can then use a little momentum from the external, because you bounced off your sternum, to get the weight moving through the hardest part, the part where the chest normally has to work the hardest. See where we're going with this? All of these tips I'm giving you have some things in common, don't they? Take these big 3 tips I've given you. Number 1, keep the arch modest. Number 2, get the grip width to where we have the pecs in the most stretched position. Number 3, pausing in that stretch position so we can't bounce and cheat out of it. What do all these three things have in common? They're forcing more mechanical tension on the pectorals. All 3 of these tips. Okay? We're doing everything possible to increase the mechanical tension on a rep for rep, pound for pound basis directly onto the pectorals. Notice I didn't say it's isolating them, because that's nonsense. It's just forcing them to work harder. It's making them do the work. Well, how do you think you stimulate a muscle? By making it do work. By subjecting it to the most tension you can. And this angle and those positions I described give us the most possible tension on the chest. All right. That's why it works. That's the key to building a big chest on the bench. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.